So, hello everyone. In this session, I will talk about some test automation. Are there any testers in the room? No one. Are there anyone writing tests? Okay, this is good at least. So, generally, I'm asking this. I was a test automation engineer, and I just transitioned into a software engineer role. But I'm talking in some different places, so I'm just asking this: are there any testers in the room? If there is no one, I'm saying this was a tricky question. Normally, all of us are testers, right? Whatever we do, we have to test what we are doing. We cannot just deploy directly into production. So, I believe most of you somehow involved in testing activities. Maybe you write test cases, or maybe you execute them in your pipelines when you write something, because what you wrote should not break anything, right? This is why we are doing regression testing. So, somehow we are involved in testing. And do you feel sometimes you do the same things again and again? You are writing more or less the same tests, right? Or you are thinking about very similar conditions, very similar use cases, test cases. Because this is what I feel. Like, for example, in most of the test cases, probably I have to go to the system, log in, and then navigate to some screen and find a button, locate an element, and do some interactions. Maybe if it's a button click or if it's an input field, put some input fields, test data, and assert the expected results. So what can we do to eliminate this duplication? This is a duplication, right? We are writing the more or less the same code in different places. So we are repeating the same structure. Even though some lines are different, even though some parameters are different, more or less we are writing the same structure. So, any ideas to eliminate this duplication? What can we do? Is someone trying something to improve this? No ideas? Okay, cool. So this will be something new that you can use, which is called as test as a service, testing as a service. Does anyone know what testing as a service mean, or has anyone heard about it? Actually, it has some different meanings. Like, you know what service is, right? This is a running code to which you can make some requests, and you will get a response. You are requesting something, and it is serving you. It is a service. So this thingy, which is accepting your request and replying the reply response, might be a testing as well. So it might run some tests and return you the result. How does it work? Like, I will request, run me one test case which goes to this system and assert that I can log in. This is my request. I'm requesting to the service. Please do this and return me the response. Return me the result. If it is a fail or pass, whatever, and just tell me what happens. All right, but how can we develop such a service? Because if I will implement some APIs or interfaces for every single test case, then it doesn't make sense, right? It is not feasible. Why am I doing that? I can just implement my test case itself. So this is the point. I will not implement interfaces for each individual test case, but I will merge different test cases by just parameterizing different things. Like, for example, if I'm running a test case for a mobile and a desktop, most probably there will be some minor changes, right? For example, I might send some extra headers if it is mobile, but the body of the test itself is same. The steps: go to the system, log in, and pass some inputs and expect the results. So this is the body, but it's same, but only some configurations or the parameters are different. So this is what we are going to achieve. So after this long introduction, let's deep dive and see what we can do. So first of all, again, I'll talk a little bit more about the problem statement. So to explain more why we are talking about this, why we are trying to find a solution for this. And then we will see how we can implement this. And finally, even after we implement, still we are not done. We have to follow up and see if it really works. So this is the continuous maintenance and continuous monitoring, seeing the results, collecting some metrics. Cool. So the first part is the problem statement and how can we prepare and collect all the necessary information and the requirements for our implementation. So let's see this part, and then we will talk about some implementation steps. So we briefly discussed about the problem, right? There are too many duplications, like and even more in the big organizations. There are too many teams, and sometimes they are developing the same things. They are not aware of each other. Like sometimes they are struggling with some problem and they are trying to find a solution, and they don't know the other team already made it. So they don't know what others are doing. And at some point in my project, I saw that within a single class, there were 2 test cases, which was related to different testing on different environments. As I just told you, it was one mobile and desktop. They just copied the test case. At first, I didn't understand what was the difference. I saw it was just the same code. But there was one tiny difference in one of the lines, just to make it run on mobile, not desktop. And think about this. This is only one class of the one project. So think about big projects. Think about big organizations. There are too many projects. So think about the duplication. It's not only code duplication. Even the code duplication causes a lot of maintenance issues, right? But code duplication and duplication of the effort as well. Some people are working on implementing all these steps, and some other people are working on implementation of the same steps on somewhere else. So what would be the solution? We will come to that point, but this is basically the problem itself. Let me share you one concrete example. Is there anyone who knows what framework is this? Yes. It is a very common framework used for end-to-end test casing, but whatever framework you are using, this is just an example, right? What we see here is there are 4 people, 4 profiles testing the same scenario, which is a super simple scenario, which is just finding a button, clicking, and the assertion. It should contain something. At least two steps. Locate, interact, and assertion. 2 steps, 1 verification. So all of them are doing the same. But as we know, all of them are different, right? Even if they are using the same language, program language, this is JavaScript, and they are using the same framework, but still, there are too many different ways to do that. So what is wrong about this? Of course, they can follow their own approaches. This is good. I mean, this is cool, but we might have some quality issues, right? So this is a very common anti-pattern, for example, dummy waits. Like she put 2 seconds. How do we know the element will appear after 2 seconds? What if it was 3 seconds? Or what if it appears after 50 milliseconds or 500 milliseconds, right? We don't have to wait for 2 seconds. So it might be just a smart polling, if it is already there or not. And of course, until the maximum acceptable time. We know that there are some performance requirements, so that if it is taking too much time, of course it will be a failure. So, we are coming to this solution. What we suggest is, do not let all these people implement from scratch, but provide them a service, so they can just call. This is the service. They are making some requests, right? Check this text on this button, or it can be any other element as well. So now we are talking about parameters. So do this test for this configuration, for these parameters. Again, this is a very similar and simple and short example, but you can design your service by accepting several different configurations. It might be even a huge config file. So you can analyze what kind of parameters and configuration you need, and you can develop your service. And again, testing as a service might be done in different ways. Like it can be really a cloud service, like an API. So you can call the APIs and get the response. Or it can be on-premise, like you can prepare a package and publish somewhere, and people can download and use in their projects. So the way you do might be different in different ways, but the point or the purpose of doing this is eliminating the duplication. So this was just a concrete example. All right, so this is the problem and the solution. So what are we trying to achieve? We are trying to develop a standard so that everyone will not follow different approaches. And of course, in this, by this means, we will be avoiding anti-patterns, as we saw in the previous example. We will be removing the duplication, both the code duplication and the duplication of effort. And of course, we will be providing some solutions to the common approaches, common problems. For example, in my one of my recent projects, I was trying to implement a test case for collecting messages from a Kafka service. So personally, it was new for me. I had to find the best way to do it. But then again, a similar approach, we implemented a service to test those kind of Kafka messages. So you can just pass your source from where you are getting the messages and what you are looking for. Then the rest the service will handle. I mean, all the infrastructure issues you don't have to deal with from scratch. So this is our target. All right. So now we know what to do, right? This is what we have to do. But how can we do it? What should be our roadmap? Of course, we need to see if this really helps or not, because now we are aiming to improve our testing activities, because testing really takes some time, right? And most of the time, if we sacrifice from testing, then we might have some major issues in production. So this is important. So how can we use this time as efficient as we can? So we need some key metrics, and we need to define our objectives. And then we will define our requirements, what will we include in our service, and we will do the prioritization, of course, to start from the most important part. So, okay, let's take a very quick look at the quality metrics. But let me ask you, what kind of quality metrics are you using to track your product quality? Or maybe code quality? Any ideas?
Code coverage.
Brilliant example. Code coverage. Anything else? Like, let's think about from that perspective. How can we measure the code coverage? We can use some maybe static code analysis tools, right? SonarQube is one example. What else we can measure?
Lighthouse score, site performance.
Yes, performance metrics. Or, yeah, time is also a part of performance. So let me show you. Basically, in two main categories. They are the confidence-related metrics and the fast delivery, right? We are trying to deliver as fast as possible. So how can we ensure that? Of course, we can track lots of different metrics, like the automation, because why? Most probably the automated test cases will be faster than manual testing. So we can check our automation coverage. We can check our execution duration, like you automate everything, but tests are still taking too much time. Like they are maybe taking 30 minutes, 40 minutes. It's not acceptable, right? If you push your test to your pipelines, and if it's taking 40 minutes, everyone will start complaining. Hey, I'm starting to push a hotfix, so it should be really fast, but I'm waiting 40 minutes for the test. Come on, fix it, right? It's not acceptable. So implementation, like whenever we have a feature, how much time do I need for implementing the test cases? This is the implementation duration. On top of the execution duration, implementation duration as well. So there are lots of many other metrics, but I'll go a little bit fast because I don't have too much time. And on the other hand, these are related to the fast delivery. On the other hand, of course, why we are doing testing? Because we have to ensure the quality, right? How can we ensure the quality? Like code coverage, like quantity, coverage. Like I'm sure most of you guys have some limits, like 80% code coverage, otherwise you don't merge, right? I believe that's the case. But even if you have 100% coverage, does it mean that we are doing tests in the best way? It does not guarantee, right? Not only quantity, but also quality. Like, okay, for all codes, all lines, you wrote some tests, so you have 100 coverage. But how about the capability of your test to find bugs? Maybe there are some escaped bugs, which means you could not find it by your tests. So there are lots of different initiatives to do that, like mutation testing to check the capability of your tests. But again, I'll go a little bit fast. But if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out after the talk. So what I did to start this project is, first of all, I collected lots of, I did a survey and I collected lots of different ideas from different people. I asked people, but like, what kind of challenges are you facing in your tests? And I collected several answers, like some of them were complaining about testing, cross-browser testing, for example, testing on different browsers. Or some of them were complaining about the execution duration. Lots of different things. And I categorized them and I prioritized them to have a roadmap on this project. So I include a lot of requirements, like some of them even like after the execution, the maintenance, right? The select notification, or like reporting them on some dashboards, or what kind of modules, the backend modules, frontend, what kind of backend, like which APIs, GraphQL, or REST APIs, whatever. So too many requirements. But of course, the prioritization is important, so that I will start from the most important ones. So I guess now we can start talking about implementation as well. So far, what we discussed about is, we know the problem, duplication. Too many people are trying to solve the same problems on lots of different places in the same organization. So the solution is provide them a service which they call, so that they don't have to implement everything from scratch. So they already have the solution. So this is the problem and solution, and we discussed about the roadmap. So how do we implement this? Let me show you a very basic example of the full test automation environment. So normally we have lots of different applications. Again, let me give you a concrete example. I'm working for Indeed, which is a company of Recruit Holdings. So we have lots of different job boards. Like most of you might know Tumblr, Recruit Next, Recruit Haken. Those are job boards, right? So I was testing them, and I was testing the same features, same functionalities. Like you go and search for a keyword, like a Java developer, and you put a location like in Tokyo, find Java developer jobs. This is your query. So in all job boards, you can do the same steps. You follow the same use scenarios. So what I'm developing should be executed, should be able to be executed from different platforms and projects. So first of all, I have a reusable workflow over there. And then, after the workflow triggers, I have the test runner, which selects test cases. So I have too many test cases. Right here, I have a test pool. Like, let's say 500 test cases are here. But I don't want to execute all of them in every single execution. Sometimes I have to execute a subset, only the critical test cases. Or in a nightly run, maybe I can test a wider scope. So I should be able to select the sets. So please, one recommendation, please add some flags or annotations into your tests so that you can select which test you want to include in the execution. And then after that, we have some fixtures, right? Before and after fixtures. Like, again, this is one good way to remove the duplication. What we discussed is for most of the test cases, you might need login steps, right? So do not include login into your spec files. Separate them into a helper class or somewhere else, a common class which might be used for all the spec files, and just run them in the before tests or before suite so that you are already logged in. So you don't have to repeat the login steps for each test case, right? So you already know what advantage we have. Like we don't have to wait for the login steps for each test case. It will save some time. And then we moved into another class so that whenever we have to maintain these steps for login, we don't have to go to each spec file one by one and fix them, but we go to just one class because the code is there. And when we change that specific class, it will be reflected to all the spec files because it is imported, exported and imported into several classes. So this will improve a lot the maintainability of our test code. And then we execute our test cases and collect the results and report them into a dashboard. So this is overall how a test automation environment looks like, where we want to implement or integrate into our CI/CD pipelines. So there might be several tools we can use, but how can we decide which one is the best? Like we discussed about end-to-end test automation frameworks, right? There are Cypress, Playwright, Selenium, or lots of different. Nightwatch is another option, I think. But which one is the best for me? So please do not blindly choose one, but first of all, analyze your requirements. Because you might be familiar with one of them, like I like Cypress, okay, but in one other project, maybe another option is the best. So please, first of all, analyze your requirements. And then you can decide the best option. So I would recommend having a developer experience, like try one of them. Sorry, try all of them for one test case. And see how easily you can do it. And automate your test cases. So ease of coding, right? And whenever you implement one test case with all options, you can do a benchmarking, like you can see which one is faster than others. You can do a time analysis as well. And while doing your implementation, there are too many quality dimensions. Again, this is a topic for another talk. I will go very quickly. But not only the functional, but also non-functional aspects are very important. We are already talking a lot about maintainability, right? We are talking about efficiency, usability, readability, understandability, flexibility, portability. There are too many aspects. So please keep in mind all the quality dimensions, and if possible, please try to track them. Like how efficient your test case or test code is running. And, okay, we analyze our requirements and we implemented our solution. So what we can do now? Let's see if I already achieved my target or not, right? Because I was intending to improve my test implementation effort. Could I do that? Let's see. So the speed of the implementation, right? Do not. I was not supposed to implement from scratch, but I would just use the shared solution. What was the intention? What was the purpose? Just speeding up. So this is how it looks when I try to implement a test case on the left-hand side from scratch, and how it looks when I use a service is on the right-hand side. You already see, you might already guess the effort difference required for both. But let's talk with some metrics. So I labeled my Jira tasks I was using Jira for my project management tool. You might be using for others as well, but I'm sure whatever you are using, you can do that. Label some of your tasks, and then collect all of them. And like you see, I'm measuring the time between this in progress to accepted. So while it was in progress, until accepted, how much time do I spend? So this is how I measure. So normally, I measured this before I start using the test as a service, this shared solution. It was in average, I think it's over there, like 3 hours in average. One test case I can implement in 3 hours. Some of them are long, so some of them are taking days, but some of them are very short, so only minutes. So in average, it was 3 hours. After I start using the testing as a service, it was 30 minutes in average. Okay, we can see already, how much is it? I think it is 10 times, right? No, 6 times. 6 times faster. So, this was already a good example of monitoring, but of course we can do several other monitoring activities as well. So, if you are trying to ensure your quality, please, again, think about the metrics you want to track and implement some dashboards. It will be very easy to see what is going on in your environments. Like, sometimes you will set some limits and your limits will be violated. Like the maximum response time, right? Sometimes it will be peak, maybe or in the midnight or somewhere else. But this dashboard will help you to understand what is your quality level. These are just examples. And of course, again, if we are trying to develop a high quality product, brainstorming, training, internal discussions, these are the good ways to find some improvement rooms so that we can find some more ways to improve the quality in our products and to deliver a better or a higher quality product to our customers or the clients. So I'm summarizing up. We discussed a very common problem, I believe. In all the organizations I worked, I faced this problem. Like there are too many teams, and all the teams are trying to work separately. Very isolated. They don't know the other teams. They don't know what the other teams are working or or the problems that they are working on. And this is a super important point to improve the efficiency. Think about you find a solution, you will have an influence in all the organization level. Like you will reduce the time to implement test cases or execute test cases, whatever testing efforts, in all the projects. So this was a very common problem. And of course, building a service and sharing them with a lot of projects is one way, but of course you can find some other ways as well. So please, as a final call for action, figure out your problems, figure out the struggle points, like what the people are mostly working on, or what kind of challenges they are facing mostly, and please try to find some solutions to cope with those kind of problems and the challenges. Again, there are too many things that we had to discuss, but I did not have too much time. So if you have any questions, please try to reach out to me. Thank you.